What's up, everybody? We're back, the Power Ranking guys, here back for episode 2 of Survivor Michigan All-Stars. As always, I'm Paul. I'm here with Joe.
Hey, everybody.
Another great episode.
Wow. I was left speechless once again, as I usually am when I watch Survivor Michigan. But we won't be speechless tonight.
No.
We have a lot to talk about.
We worked up to this, for sure. As you may be able to hear, I'm a little under the weather tonight. So the coughing and the sniffling, you'll just have to excuse me, but I couldn't not come on. There was too much here that we had to talk about it. These episodes are jam-packed with stuff.
Yes.
Just so much content.
Yeah, it was, I know we'll get into it, but I feel like this one, we had a lot of cross-tribal meetups that were happening. We had a very large chunk of the episode based around advantages and fake advantages that I'm sure we'll get into. We had some pandemonium at an advantage, search and find, and then of course a tribal council. So
we had everything. So I agree. It was such another great episode. So much good content. So we start here with Dylan's first blindside. Never been blindsided. Now he has. Surprise, surprise. Dylan, though, he went to work. Like, he was one of the, like you talked about, all these cross-tribal meetings and stuff. Dylan was really at the center of a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I think, he recognized, obviously, what had happened and, especially being a winner. But I think even Erin, too, she put in a lot of work as well. Like, you can't just lay down and let that happen and not try to do something. So it was, I'm not surprised to see these all-stars, recognizing that and putting in the work. So I think it makes sense. I wasn't surprised by that. We'll probably get to this at some point, but the thing that sticks out the most to me is him and Adam finding that fake idol together and that whole conversation, which was just very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely have that later on because I want to give that kind of its own. I mean, fake idol palooza is going to be definitely its own segment because, I mean, there's nothing like it. But let's start here with this. We get kind of a moment with Dylan and Andrew. And I think, like, this is both of their game is, like, the bro down thing a lot. And so I think if this ever manifests or if anything ever comes of this, that could be really powerful because I think they both feel really comfortable inside that kind of bro down situation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I feel like their playing styles are kind of similar, which I think also brings them together. And I think, obviously it worked for Dylan before.
Totally.
So if you can tap into that and ride this wave out for a while. But I think Andrew not being a winner, he between the two of them has a smaller target than Dylan. So I think if Andrew also plays a similar game like that and just kind of builds the personal connections and kind of, finds his people, I think he could really benefit from that going forward. And if they are ever found out as like a pair or something, or they get swapped together, Dylan will always be a bigger target first just for being a winner. So I think that actually helps Andrew.
Another good spot for Andrew in this game. He just draws. Yeah, he's drawn so many good spots here that I'm very high on Andrew this week again. Dylan opens an umbrella indoors at one point.
I was like, is he about to do that? I mean, it's a superstition. I think I've done it in the past, so I don't know, maybe by accident, but
not when I was around. You haven't. Let me be clear about that, because I, like Michael Scott, I am a little stitious, and that is like, I don't like the umbrellas indoors. I don't like Macbeth in a theater. I don't like all of that stuff. I'm very particular about. So that really stood out to me of like, whoa, that is not good. So,
right. And is it, a foreshadowing of an early Dylan exit? Will they be flashing back to that moment during his final scenes?
Who's to say? I know. I also have a hi E and hi Katie shout out.
Yes.
When we're all in that booth. So this season is spoiling us with NPC, non-playable character appearances, as we will get into later. Don't worry. But we are spoiled with that. So we move on. Once again, Jackson doesn't know shit about Survivor Michigan. Never seen any of it. Doesn't care about how anybody else plays. Never. I love this for him. This is so on brand in character for Jackson that he is just living in this moment and is like, I don't care who came in 6th place in Survivor Michigan season 3. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Love that for him. I want to circle back around Sam because we were both high on Sam.
Mm-hmm.
He was outside of my top 5 because of Mitchgate.
Yeah.
But Sam has these playing cards with people's faces on them. What is happening here?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about it in the last episode with Sarah's, magnet, people on magnets. I think we're seeing maybe some of these players are just visual players. And I think I can picture Sam with just everyone's face on a card, just laying them out on tables and shuffling them around and who's connected to who.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all about it. I'm a visual learner. So that's how I learn. That's why I also lean on you to take notes for these, because I hated taking notes in college. So I just kind of go off of my memory, which isn't always the best, but we love a visual in College Survivor. So yeah, is he like the Gambit of the season? Is that
I know. Totally. I agree with this. My notes are totally unhinged. So that gives you an insight to my learning style, because at one point I have Sam Cards ? Iraq War ? Do you remember this? When the US invaded Iraq and they released that like deck of cards with like Saddam Hussein as the ace of spades, or like all these targets they were trying to find.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
It's giving me weird. Like, we should also say, like, we're older than most of the Survivor Michigan contestants. So like, we were doing very different things in 2004 than this cast was doing in 2004, which for some of them would be like, not quite being born, but like attending
just
kindergarten.
Learning to walk.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas for us, yeah, different. But and also Sam, who we both think is going to do very well in this season of Survivor Michigan, or at least I do, is he going to fail out of college before the end of this season?
Yeah. I mean, episode 2, he's already cutting a class.
Sam.
I mean, I feel like we've definitely heard it before in past seasons about how, I mean, I put myself in their shoes too. Like, if I was such a Survivor fan, I'm kind of glad that Penn State didn't have a college Survivor when I was there, even though as fun as it would have been. I mean, and I was already like an average, like B- student. So you throw into like college Survivor into that, I don't know. I probably would still be in college if I had played a season. So, yeah, I mean, just as we've mentioned before, just like kudos to all of these people because they're not just playing the game. They're still living their lives. They're still going to school. They're still going to class. Some of them have jobs, I'm sure. Like, you still have to live your real life and then add this insane game to it. Yeah, I don't know. Has someone had to repeat a semester because of College Survivor yet? Have we heard of that?
I don't know. I was a pretty prolific class skipper, and I wasn't playing Survivor. I was just not going to classes. So again, I'm with you. This would have been a disaster for me. And especially for someone like Sam, who is so in this, like, it's relatable, it's judgment free, but I am worried about Sam's standing at the University of Michigan this semester. We will have to get into it. Yes. Speaking of unhinged notes, this one just says Jackson is so hot vibes. But the next one is actually about the game. Jackson and Leia get together, and
cringy.
I've been on some bad first dates in the city, but this would be in the upper echelon of really bad first dates. Like, it was just not, from either side, just absolutely not having it.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that they both like really didn't want to do this, but but in the course of the game, obviously, it's a social game. You have to meet up with people, which I will say, I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with Jackson, because like I think multiple people went to him and were like, yo, you need to actually be like reaching out to these people and talking to these people. And I don't know if this is a strategy. I mean, I feel like he kind of feels like he's on the bottom already, which I think he mentioned. I don't know if he's just like still burnt out from his season. Who knows with him, but it is interesting that he's kind of being like pushed to kind of reach out to people and talk to them. I don't know if it's like, is he waiting for someone else on his tribe to kind of, implode or make a huge blunder. I don't know, but I think it's interesting that he's taking more of like a passive strategy here, at least with his gameplay. But yeah, the Leia Jackson meetup was very cringy. I don't think anything got accomplished from that. I don't think Leia had much good things to say about that meeting. So interesting to watch, but I don't think it really helps either of their games in any way, shape, or form.
Definitely did not. As opposed to this Leia and Will meetup, which was giving me Leia and Mitch vibes. Once again, Mitch gets referenced again 2 episodes in a row. I hope he gets referenced in every episode because, as we know, sorry, Michigan #1 Mitch fan.
Yes.
Leia, I think, is right to view Will that way, because I think Will is somebody that she can always play behind, and that she can kind of puppeteer a little bit, even though Will always views himself as the puppet master and all of this stuff.
Right.
I mean, this is not season 3. I mean, these are expert, really good players, and Leia is one of them.
Yeah.
So if she's looking at Will in that way, I think Leia had a really good episode. I think is setting herself up really well.
Yeah, she had a lot of great confessionals. We got a lot of Leia content, which we love. And I think it's interesting too, like noticing Will playing this time. Like you said, it's not season 3. I think he is one of those people that we talked about last week of having this like big reputation of like a villain and all this stuff. But I think he wants to, just as a viewer, I feel like he wants to come in and like play not like a loyal game per se, but I think he wants to, it seems like he wants to play differently than his first time around. And he's meeting up with multiple people. I think we've even heard people say like, oh, I'm not a big like Will fan, but then they meet up with them and they're like, actually, I feel like he's telling the truth and he actually wants to work with me. So like kudos to him for kind of changing that narrative. Now, will it last? I mean, we know Will as a character.
Yeah.
So how long is that going to, last in this game? But I think it is interesting seeing him play like a little bit of a different way this time. And for other good players to kind of recognize that and like can kind of tell that he is sort of being genuine in these meetings, I think is also a good thing.
I agree. But it's easy to play that way when you don't have to vote anybody out, when you're just winning challenges. It's, it's easy to kind of do that side of the game. We'll see.
Yeah.
Once he has to go to tribal council, I think that we might be off to the races there. Speaking of off to the races, Aaron finds an idol, allegedly. And then we're just going to touch on it now because Fake Idolgate really gets into the swing of things later in the episode. But I don't even really have words. Like I was thinking about it today and like going over it in my mind and like there's nothing to compare this to. Like this amount of fake idols in the game with people who believe they're real, with people who are all on the same tribe.
Yeah. When I heard 18 fake idols were made, that blew my mind. And then the fact that we saw at least 4?
I have 4 in my notes.
Okay,
yes.
So it was Aaron found one. Sam found one, right?
Aaron has one, Sam has one, and Adam has 2.
Adam has 2. Yeah. So that's 4 of 18. So there's still a lot out there. Yeah, that was a big part of the middle of the episode. And I think it was interesting too when Aaron found hers and she was like, oh, it's taped up. Like this has never happened before. Yeah, it's just, I'm just imagining like Advantage Get-In at some point later in the season, but they're just all fake.
It has to happen. I mean, they just have to start blowing up and they'll all be fake. And I mean, you make plans around idols. You play the game around idols. I don't know what is going to happen with this. I mean, like we said, Aaron has one, Sam has one, Adam has 2. They're all in the same tribe. I mean, and so only certain people know about certain people's fake idols, but Megan knows. But because Megan knows, Jackson knows. this is going to blow up.
Absolutely. I think the good thing about this, though, and about multiple people having the fake ones on the same tribe, is that Megan does know the truth.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that if there's a situation where, like, the discussion is coming up. Now, I don't think no one knows Erin has one, right?
I don't think so.
So that one's kind of secret. So I don't think that would really throw a big wrench into a plan unless she says that she has one or something. But at least Megan knows. So maybe she can kind of play into that if they get into a situation where one or more could possibly be played at the same tribal, where she'll kind of, maybe she could sort of like push her alliance to still vote for someone, you know, knowing that the idol that they're going to play is fake without revealing it. So I think that's going to be really interesting too for her. And we saw her, like, I don't even want to say struggling really, but just like especially with her and Adam meeting up and him showing her and then him getting a second, like, again, kudos to Megan for, like, she's had to do a lot of lying in 2 episodes.
Yes.
And I'm honestly proud that she's able to pull it off right now and contain that. So as we are, everyone already knows we're big Megan fans. So the fact that she was able to keep her composure and you know, not say anything, I think was good. It will be interesting though later on, like if her and Adam are still together, working together, and like he wants to try to use it in some way, like does she break it to him? You know, that's what we're interested in seeing happen in the future.
Yeah. I mean, Megan, one of the notes I have here is Megan is in the driver's seat on this tribe. She is the person with all the information. She knows everything. And I also wrote down, there's a line in the movie Sister Act 2 where they talk about how bad things have gotten at the school, and they say Sister Mary Patrick frowned twice. And that's how I feel about Megan in this episode, is like we saw at least one, if not 2 scenes where Megan isn't constantly smiling.
Yeah.
And we're only 2 episodes in.
Right.
So we went how many 10 plus episodes in season 4 where she never stopped smiling. And now we're 2 episodes in. And Megan, I haven't seen her frown yet. I have seen her look concerned. Yes, I'm not willing to fully buy into the frown.
Right.
But there's no version of this where she's not in control of what happens on this tribe continuing on.
Yeah.
And this makes me so high on her, except for at what point does her loyalty to Jackson end? Like, I think this is the conversation I think is going to be explored throughout the next couple episodes that I think we just don't have a read on yet, is you know, because it's easy to say, oh, I would vote him out if I needed to. I would vote her out if I needed to. We've all done that in games. But at the end of the day, is Megan really willing to cut Jackson at some point? Because it seems to me like in order for her to really pull off what she's going to need to pull off, Jackson is a liability to her.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, like, I think for her game, him going early is actually fine.
Yes.
I think it helps her. I think it lowers the chances of them getting caught in this, like, you know, hidden relationship that they have. So yeah, I think it might be better for him to go while they're on different tribes. I think it might get messy if they end up on like a swap tribe together and his name is out there.
Yeah.
And I think she would still do it. I think, you know, let's say like they do a swap and Jackson gets swap screwed or something, and it's like, it's clear that it's got to be him. I think it might be like a little tough for her, but I think she would be able to do it. Yeah, I agree. I think him going early, not that we would want to see that as viewers.
Of course not, but
her game, I think it actually helps her.
Yeah, I totally agree. If he goes and it's not by her hand, like he goes as part of something separate than her, sometimes in these all-star games, you just get lucky and somebody who is a big threat goes out and you didn't have to do it. And that's the best case scenario for your game. At one point, Erin is talking and she says, "What dumb shit would Ian do?" And I was like, that's us podcasting every week. That's literally the question we come into every week, is like, what dumb shit is Ian going to do next week? We also texted this week about the challenge, and specifically the aftermath of the challenge and Kevin's reaction to the challenge, where you texted me and you said, "What is Kevin doing? This is crazy." And my note says, Kevin's excitement level, relatable. So I think that's the difference between you and I when we win a challenge, is you were like, "What is this crazy person doing?" And I was like, "I see myself on screen." I'm represented.
So you
by
flipped the table before, and is that what I'm finding out?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever literally flipped a table in excitement, but like that level
Metaphorically.
of reaction and
Yeah.
excitement, like winning a challenge, it especially like, I'm not like the most physical dude in the world. So like when I go into an immunity challenge, especially a team immunity challenge, and pull my weight and then we pull it off and we win, I'm like the adrenaline is like full flowing, like, and I'm a nutcase, like I truly am. So yeah, I relate to this energy.
That's so funny.
Totally. One thing I relate less to is Kevin saying "fuck Sam Morris." What? Why? Why, Kevin? I don't relate to that energy. We love
No, I
Sam
don't
here.
either. Yeah, I was not about that at all.
It was very Kevin. This goes into the whole Kevin thing of I believe he is trying to learn from what happened in season 2, and I believe he
Mhm.
is trying to play a much tighter, more composed game, and I think he's succeeding in a lot of ways. But there are those moments where your emotions take over, where you're in it, whether it's at a challenge, whether it's at finding an advantage, whether these high pressure moments
Mhm.
where I think you are who you are,
Yep.
and that just appears at some point. You can't change, you can't totally change your stripes. You are who you are. And Kevin is this deeply intense person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And we talked about in the first episode where
Mm-hmm.
people are going to try to come in and play differently or learn from their past and all this. But like you said, you can't change like who you are inside. So that's if you're going to try to suppress certain things, it's going to come out. So
Yeah,
yeah, we saw that there.
definitely. We see Megan and Kevin. Speaking of Kevin meeting up together, and speaking of Megan putting in work,
Mm-hmm.
Megan, she's so good. Like
Yeah.
there's just not enough things I can say about her this season. Of she is really 2 episodes in. We are focused on Megan, and like
Mm-hmm.
she is really in the driver's seat of this. But there's something else I wanted to touch on here, and that is Bree and Emily B.
Yeah.
We talked about this last
Mm-hmm.
episode about wanting them both to get together, wanting them to make a move. Here they are. It's happening. I think this is a really good look for both of them.
Yeah, I thought the same thing because we were seeing more from them. We were getting more confessionals from them, seeing kind of what work they're putting in. Yeah, I like it. I like this duo. I'm excited to see more from them. I
I
almost kind of
agree.
want, I mean, we've seen it now. 2 different tribes have lost in 2 episodes. I kind of want their tribe to lose just to
Me too.
see what everyone does, like see what work they've been putting in for 2 weeks and where the alliances actually fall. I never want to wish a loss on a tribe, but I think just for viewers' sake and dynamics sake, I would love to see kind of what they all do.
Totally agree. That would be a hard tribe to lose somebody from.
Yeah.
But I definitely am interested in to see where the proof is in the pudding on that. And then we get this discussion that I definitely want to pick your brain on, which is the difference between a girls' alliance and an alliance of all girls. And I actually thought this was such a really good conversation to have that I'm so glad it was captured and talked about because, there's this whole stigma. Girls' alliances don't work. Girls' alliances never stick together. It goes back to literally Survivor season 1 about women's alliances can't work. They can't stick together. But this idea of an alliance that just happens to have a bunch of female people in it, because they all connect on other reasons, because it's strategically smart for them to work together and do so, I mean, is sort of the Survivor One World thing where we see that happen of these women who are in mutually beneficial positions to one another do work together.
Right.
Is this going to be able to come together, or is there a spoiler here? Because a lot of times with women's alliances, we see like, we can't have a women's alliance because Karen sucks, or like, and whoever the Karen character happens to be. Shout out Survivor Palau. I love that season. But
Okay.
whoever that character happens to be. But I have high hopes for these women in particular.
Yeah, and just remind me who it was. Leia
That's
was talking to.
Yeah, Emily, Leia, Bree, and Jesse are the 4 females on the tribe, and I'm like, that is a perfect set of people to get together.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. Like, I mean, we've seen all kinds of alliances either be successful and not be successful. So I really think it actually just depends on the group of players that it is, regardless of if it's all women, all men, you know, a mix of the two or whatever. So yeah, I think you bring up a good point. And with the tribe being 7 people, just in a number sense, hey, we're 4, they're 3, let's take one of those out. So yeah, I think it is the right group of people to do that. I think it's really just I think it would be like a short-term thing though, because I mean, obviously there's going to be some sort of swap that comes. So I think that's going to get kind of diluted when at that point. But if that tribe does lose, just in a number sense, even, it makes sense to stick together. And I think you're right. I think in a short-term sense, those 4 coming together makes sense.
Yeah, I think they all have mutual goals. Which I think, like you said, talk about girls' alliances, guys' alliances based on this, based on that, based on whatever. The alliances that tend to work are alliances that are based on mutual goals. Right? We all have to want to get to the same place for the same reasons with the same people. And these 4 people are in very similar spots. Yeah. Of Bree, Emily, Jesse, Leia. They can really cook something up. So I would like to see this come together, even if it is just for a short term, like we said. I'd love to see this come together because I love those 4 players. And I know 3 of them are people who we said we really want to see more out of them this time because we know they have it. Right. So I'd love to see them pull something together and really kind of take control on this tribe if they have to go. Yep. All right. So everyone is getting drunk. So Sam is at Charlie's with some friends. I am not even going to go in to the finer points of the Ann Arbor bar scene, but I will say that Ann Arbor is a great city if you want to get drunk, that you can do it safely, cheaply, and in a walkable distance, mostly to where you live. And I think it's a wonderful. There's a reason it's ranked one of the best college towns in the country. I love it there. It's a fantastic place to go. So Sam is getting drunk. He's not the only one, I'm sure, but he is. Yeah. He'll be the focal point of this segment. Yes. Yeah. And so then we get this midnight idol advantage hunt drop.
Mayhem.
All
I could say.
From a production standpoint, I love this. Yeah. This to me is proof of a production team that has worked well together, knows what they're doing, and knows how to put a game together. Because this is when you're not doing reward challenges or any of that, there's no other kind of second beat to the episode besides Immunity Channel Tribal Council. Right. And this ends up creating a whole third act to this episode that doesn't exist otherwise. Shout out to the nth degree to the production team for this moment. Yeah. I mean, you know what's coming next. Brian is here.
Our buddy Brian makes an appearance.
I cannot believe the embarrassment of riches that Survivor Buffalo is having this season on Survivor Michigan All-Stars. This is our another Survivor Buffalo legend, a friend of ours, someone we both love. Yes, is here. Brian, Sarah's boyfriend Brian, is here. At first, I thought he was getting a shout out. And you can see the evolution of my notes grows in excitement. It says Brian shout out. Oh shit, a confessional. And then in all caps, he's in the fountain.
That was the exact roller coaster of emotions I went on it too as well. And knowing Brian, I'm not surprised, but it was so cool seeing him in the episode. So far. Jumping right into the fountain, trying to search for an advantage for Sarah. Just loved all of that. It's funny because this was filmed, I think, just a few weeks after Survivor Buffalo season 2, where I met them. So it's just so funny, kind of I'm sure Brian's excitement for Survivor in general had grown just in that month. So, and I don't know if that would have changed, regardless. I think he would have jumped in there anyway.
I think this is just his personality in general.
But I think just knowing the timing of it, I just thought that was really cool. And the fact that he got, I think, 2 different confessionals. Yes,
killing it.
Very, very fun to see him getting right in there and not surprising.
We love him. And so it's just such a, So now we've seen Sarah Paddock, we've seen Brian, we've seen Matthew Israel in the background. I know Austin is in the background. That's 5 Survivor Buffalo players
Yeah.
that have made appearances. So I'm just saying, listen, if you're watching this and you haven't applied to live games yet, just do it.
Yes, that's
just
the perfect. Yeah.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna talk actually about live games again a little bit later in my notes, but like if you haven't, this is prime application seasons. A bunch of different games just dropped their apps.
Yes.
Apply, play these games. They are so fun. You will meet all sorts of wild people who may or may not appear on your screen later in life when you're trying to do a podcast. Do it.
Yeah, it is. They're life-changing.
Yes.
I think for me too, I mean, we mentioned we were a little bit older than college-aged people, but I think for me, I was whatever, I'll say what age I was. I think Survivor came out when I was like 14, whatever. Do the math. But I think what's cool now is like, it wasn't cool back then.
Yes.
And I didn't really tell a lot of people that I watched Survivor. And it's like now at the age that I am, with all these games, with the community, I feel like the community has only just grown, especially in the last like 5 years or so. Apply for a live game. Like go out of your comfort zone. You will not regret it, regardless of the placement that you get. Like each little community in and of itself, like each game is just so welcoming and so great. Paul and I kind of met. Well, the first time we met was at his Buffalo season, but Survivor brought us together. We had never known each other. We met like through Twitter.
Yep.
So it's like you really never know who you could come across. So yeah, great plug there for live games.
Yeah, we can't say enough. Like, reach out to us. I know a lot of you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, places. Like, reach out. Like, we will help you connect with games that are casting. Like, we will do what we can to help you because it like you said, it's a life-changing experience. So into that. Sam, not to take a hard left turn here. Sam takes his pants off. What is going on this season? There's a scene in She's the Man where the parents are there at the end and she just goes, does this soccer game have more nudity than most? And like 2 episodes into Survivor Michigan All-Stars, I'm like, does this Survivor season have more nudity than most? Because Sam's in his underwear.
Yeah. Did he ever find his clothes? I don't even know.
Did he walk of shame home from this fountain? I don't know. And found nothing.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
He tried.
He tried. We love him. Who among us in undergrad? Who among us? I can't. There's no judgment here.
No, never.
Cooper, on the other hand, who has also been drinking, but manages to keep his pants on this time.
Right.
Finds a phantom vote.
Yes.
I want to talk about a phantom vote. So this is my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. It's like a steal a vote you play at a tribal council you're not at.
Yes, but the person doesn't know that their vote has been stolen, which is really interesting.
Whoa.
I love this. And I think I saw on Twitter that our friend Austin was on production for the season and put that in there.
Not surprised.
Fact check me if that was wrong, but I think I saw that. So very, very cool. But I think first of all, kudos to Cooper for not telling anyone about it. I hope that continues.
Cooper, yes. There's 2 quotes here. One where he says, people be sharing info. And that's a Survivor motto right there. People be sharing info. Yeah. And he says, keep it in your pants.
Yeah.
And Cooper, this is the kind of gold I expected to see from Cooper going from host to player again.
Yes.
Like, this is the kind of evolution that I wanted to see. And he is bringing it of like, he learned from watching other people's mistakes.
Yes.
People be sharing info. To quote Cooper, I'm gonna keep saying it. People be sharing info, but Cooper is not one of the people that be sharing info.
Right.
So
And I think this advantage is perfect for this season because of how many cross-tribal alliances there are. I think I could see it being used at a swap. That's going to be like my guess as to when it's used, because it does have to be used before the merge. I could see it being used at a swap depending on how that shakes down. And I think with so much information being shared, it would be pretty easy for Cooper to find a situation where it would be useful to use. And what I really want to see, and I do hope it gets used, and I hope it gets used to flip a vote, because what I want to see is just the votes coming out. Let's say it was 4-3 and it comes 4-3 a different way, and just the tribe being shocked, and then the manhunt that happens to figure out who it was. No one's gonna say that it was them, because it wasn't.
Because it wasn't.
I just want to see like a pan to Cooper somewhere, just like laughing villainously at the mayhem that he just caused. Like, I really hope we get something like that, because I think that would be the perfect way that this advantage is used, and then we gain from it just from seeing all the chaos.
Yeah, he is the perfect person to have this advantage because he is so crafty. That he's perfect for this. And I mean, and this is also a perfect group of people to have that kind of scenario play out, because there are some high octane people in this group that and listen, again, all of this comes no judgment, because I am one of these people. And if I was in that situation, I would also be losing my mind. Yeah. And there are a dozen people here, let's just be honest, that would lose their minds in that kind of situation. And so I want to see it sooner rather than later. Go Cooper, go. Adam finds his first fake idol of the episode. Oh, buddy.
Yeah, it was tough to watch knowing the truth. I'm sure it is very exciting to find an idol in a game, but knowing that it wasn't real was just very painful.
Oh. Especially because we're rooting so hard for Adam now. Like, he's been so good and so likable, and we're like, yay, Team Adam. And he just ended up with so much egg on his face this episode. And I was just like, oh, buddy, like, I'm so rooting for you. But he does come out of it with this Crybabies alliance with Megan.
Yeah.
And that is more valuable, obviously, than fake idols. But even then, you can have a bunch of real idols, but if you don't have somebody telling you when to play it, or you don't have that extra voice, idols are hard to play.
Right.
Especially, on CBS, they're all in cramped living quarters. So pulling off a blindside on CBS Survivor is very different than doing it in College Survivor, because in College Survivor, I can be texting you and 2 other people, and I can be sitting across from somebody planning their blindside, and they have no way of knowing that I'm planning their blindside unless somebody leaks it.
Right.
Whereas if we're all living, we're all starving, living in a tent together or sleeping under a shelter together, it's much, much harder to pull off a blindside. So in College Survivor, especially, you need those ears to the ground for you that are saying, like, okay, like, you need to play this or don't play this or whatever. So I think this, because I do predict that eventually Megan is going to spill the beans to Adam.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that too. I think what counterbalances the fact that he has 2 fakes is that he does have Megan. So if he gets into a sticky situation where he wants to try to use it on someone, or he wants to say that whatever, Megan can hopefully make the best strategic decision for not only her, but for the both of them as allies, and just be like, hey, BT dubs, that's not real, or however she wants to do it. So I think that is what kind of saves him from, having these 2 fakes, is that he does have Megan to kind of hopefully, reveal the truth of that at some point in the future if need be. And I feel like she would even do it. Yeah, and I think she would even do it if it was like a swap situation. Because they're going to continue talking. So like if he's like, oh, like, I can use my idol on this or whatever, I think she'd still be open to telling him the truth there. So I think that's a good thing.
I agree. I trust Megan to play this correctly. So she's one of the people that I go, she is good to be in this spot. So that's going to be interesting to watch play out. So we have these set of meetings that happen between Cooper, Sarah, Paddock, and Tom. And then meeting number 2 of Cooper, Sarah, and Paddock. And I was actually talking to none other than Miss Sarah Gallagher this week about this particular incident.
Nice.
First of all, shout out to episode 1 of the Power Rankings guys. The Ottawa tribe definitely named after the casino, 100%. So she absolutely made sure that she told me that. So pointing to the Power Ranking guys, but also these meetings, and this is where I wanted to talk about the difference between the live games and the college games. So because we were talking about this, and the length of these meetings was literally hours for both of them. She's saying, and like in the live game, like, you know, Sarah played 1 round of College Survivor before this. You know, most of her experience and where she is so good, and we've seen her be so good, is in these live games. But I mean, a couple hours is the entire pre-merge in some of these games, you know, and more. And so the idea of having these meetings that last hours and one of them being totally fake, and you know it's totally fake, I cannot imagine what that feels like from her perspective, because when we were talking, I was like, I don't think it comes off at all like, oh, Sarah's just like, you know, let's get this over with. Like, I as a viewer am like, oh my God, if I was stuck in that room with those people having this exact same conversation twice over for hours and hours and hours, like, I would be ready to jump out of the window as well, 100%. Like, that pacing is so different.
Right. It's got to be so draining too, to just sit there and like repeat the same things over and over again. And here's the thing too, it's only episode 2,
right?
It's 100 days or however long the season is. Like, how many hours are going to be clocked for just these conversations that aren't even genuine? I can't even imagine. So,
and this is like a quote unquote fairly straightforward vote. It's not even like, you know, until later there's a little like craziness that goes on at the end, but like at this point it's a pretty straightforward vote, and they're still putting in these hours and hours together, and it's like, wow, like I cannot like imagine. But it is good to get this group of Sarah, Paddock, and Cooper together. Because I think this is definitely a power group. How long it lasts, like we discussed last week, I don't know. But man, this is a group that has a lot of power together. So also Sarah's magnet says Copper instead of Cooper. So keep your eye out for that the rest of the season.
Good call.
Oh yes. Gosh, that's funny. I have here Sam stop skipping class challenge. And especially stop skipping class for a fake idol. So we touched on this earlier. What happens, say next week, this tribe goes to tribal council, and it's just fake idol? Like, who plays their fake idol first? Erin probably has to play one. Or does she flash it and try and flip the vote? Do 3 of these 4 fake idols get played? Does Megan step in at one point and go, these are all fake? I really, and this is so like twisted, I really hope that tribe loses and goes to tribal council, because I really want to see how badly this thing can explode, and I wanted to see it all explode at once.
I don't even know. I mean, there's only 6 people, right? So it's like you could maybe try to do like a 2-2-2 if Megan pushes for that. This whole Dylan Adam situation, like I want to see where that comes into play. Like, is Adam gonna try to want to save Dylan the next round? So
Dylan is so good. He's so good. This whole thing with Dylan and Adam and this finding this another fake idol in this stairwell, and like, hey, this is your clue. Like, you should have, like, he's so good. Like, because Dylan understands the value of having Adam is more valuable than an idol. And he's right about that. I do have a note here that says Adam did what for an idol with 3 question marks. But I think we'll just run past that. And if anybody wants to slide into our DMs, they are welcome to. But I need this tribe to lose next week. I'm putting this out into the universe, much like we put into the universe a Maggie shout out last week on the podcast. We said we need some kind of Maggie reference, and we did not have to wait but 24 hours for Sam to pull out a Maggie reference, which is, first of all, Maggie, shout out, love you, queen, miss her not being here. But Sam has decided to take it upon himself to Maggie-fy this season a little bit. And he calls Tom and is like, hey, like, by the way, like, they're voting you out. Like, this is what's happening.
Gosh.
Just to be shady.
I know.
And Sam and Tom, through this weird telepathy, somehow figures out that the person he needs to pin this on is Paddock. And like, just talk about blind squirrel finding a nut in this situation of like, he just happens to pick the one person on the tribe who was pushing for him to stay,
right,
and has now sown all this distrust with Cooper based on this totally made up thing. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it was like, when I was watching it, I was like, okay, Sam basically just like walked into their room, chucked a grenade, and then walked out. But then everyone went, Paddock, why did you do that? Like,
I know.
I was like, I can't believe, like, the series of events that had to take place for that all to happen and to Sam to walk away basically scot-free. I was like shook. I was like, I can't even believe that. I hope Paddock can sort of recover from this. I hope it doesn't, like, I mean, it kind of put like an unnecessary target on her. But yeah, that whole series of events was just nuts.
So bizarre. I mean, listen, the Thomasance was short-lived, but while we had it, it was excellent.
I was thinking about you during that. I was like, oh, we only got, the Thomasance was short, but yeah, just I don't even know what to say, honestly. I kind of feel bad in a way, because I feel like he was just like targeted first just for being Tom, which I don't like.
Hate that in a way. And yet on the other hand, I think the way this tribe shook out, it's hard to imagine any other way this happens.
Right. Yeah.
Who else is really going here? I mean, with this particular layout of people, especially, like, who are you flipping this on?
Yeah.
Bailey, I guess. Right. Nick, maybe. Why? I don't like it, because I wanted to see Tom play more this season, because I think Tom is funny. I think he's fun. I would like to see what happened if he had actually been able to get a footing on a tribe, but he just wasn't in the cards for him.
No.
And I just don't know that there was ever, with the way this shook out. I mean, what's his move? He can continue to push Bailey, and that's fine. But I mean, I don't know that there's really a move here for Tom.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Right.
Yeah, Tom's great, and we loved having him here for as brief as we did. Like I said, Tribal Council works out 6-1. It's pretty standard. Tom goes, and then we're, here we are. We are off to the races. And what about that super weird preview for the next episode?
Yeah.
What is going on?
I don't know. I'm scared a little bit.
I'm worried. 100%. These, like, this group of people is so, like, interesting to me and wild, that the idea of putting them together in a powder keg like that is like, it's like the thing where, like, you don't want to look but you peek between your fingers, because you're like, I can't not watch this. Like, this is going to be power ranking, like, who is going to get into their underwear next week? Like,
does that have to be a new segment? Because we're 2 for 2 so far.
We might have to make them pay extra on the Patreon for that power ranking. Because at the rate the season's going, we may be able to power rank, like, the entire male cast of Survivor Michigan at this point. So I'm just saying, maybe on our Patreon, maybe we'll expand. There was one more thing I wanted to touch on. We already kind of ended the episode, but we ran past it that I wanted to touch on. Kevin's season of Survivor Michigan is airing right now.
Yeah.
Which I think is horrible for him.
I know.
Because I think, as we talked about at the time, when we coined the Cavillan, it also, is there a weird metaverse where people playing this game are hearing our power rankings on KYTL? Like, are they hearing Sam, Jack, and Sarah read our power rankings while playing the game?
I would have to assume so, because we started doing this in season 2.
We started doing the power rankings in 2. We started recording our own podcast in season 3, but season 2 we started submitting power rankings.
Right.
So, like, I mean,
that's so weird.
Are we influencing Survivor Michigan All-Stars? I'm just saying, in the metaverse sense.
Maybe.
If we hear people on this season start talking about the Mallory game and how great the Mallory game is,
then
that's
know.
us. We did that. We will know that we will be the 6th and 7th Survivor Buffalo contestants to appear on Survivor Michigan All-Stars.
That's so wild. The whole the time that, like, I love like time travel and like movies and stuff. So like all of this is very
we're
interesting
doing
to
it
me.
right now.
Yeah.
This is time travel because we're here and we're also there.
Right.
But I want us to keep an eye on this in the next couple of weeks because I feel like Kevin has been doing a good job. Like Kevin has learned from his mistakes. We hit on that. Like, I like what he's doing. I am worried that this is going to tank Kevin's game.
Yeah.
Because like the Daniel boot in particular is rough. Mm-hmm. It's rough to watch. Some of the moments with Sarah Avery in season 2 are rough to watch.
That's right.
And I'm very worried that like you talked about time travel, that Kevin is going to get sucked into Survivor Michigan season 2 world and not be able to kind of. I hope he can. I hope he can pull himself out of it. I hope there's enough people around that go, yeah, whatever. Ha ha ha. It's funny now. And maybe we'll get deep enough into the season that people start to see Sam doing shady things and we'll forget about Kevin doing shady things.
Right.
Maybe. I do want to keep an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. That's all the notes I have. Anything else that I missed?
No, I think so it's funny. So I watched the episode and then I wrote down 6 names.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing the backslash this season. I'm bringing in
nobody ever said we had to do 5. We put that on. Nobody said top 5. We were just ranking them. Yeah.
So I wrote down people right after the episode, and that was almost a week ago. I feel like I probably could pepper in some other people based on our conversation, but I'm going to just stick with what I had, and we'll go from there.
Let's do it. Who do you have?
Okay, I'm going to start with Aaron/Dylan.
Okay.
Which is very interesting.
Yes.
I think I really just put them on there because watching them play from the bottom and just kind of seeing what they're doing so far, I think I was a little impressed by. I also, and I think I got this wrong, but I'll throw this out there. So I wasn't 100% sure, but I thought that, because remember that they kept cutting to Aaron saying like, it's what you can do with a fake idol or something that's important or whatever. And then they cut to Dylan and Adam finding it under the stairs. I almost thought that Aaron and Dylan had re-hid her fake one to then have that whole situation happen. But there wasn't a clear.
I thought that they were trying to tell us that Jackson re-hid that one under the stairs when he heard that one of the other ones had been found.
Okay.
But again, there was like a lot of that was happening in this episode.
Yeah, I was getting lost with all that.
Unprecedented amount of fake idols. So
yes.
I am interested, but I like the pull quote that you used because I think that's correct. I think to some degree, it doesn't really matter that these idols are fake.
Right. No. And I think so even beyond that, if that's true or not, I just think, again, I think Aaron and then especially Dylan in that Adam situation, using that fake idol to build a bridge with Adam, if it comes to fruition, I think will be really interesting. So I just threw them on the power rankings because I wanted to see what they were going to do from, being on the bottom of that vote. So they're on the list for me this week.
I like that. I think they made the best of a bad situation. Totally. Who else do you have on there?
I wrote elevated Jackson, and I don't remember what that meant. But what I will say...
Oh, I think I do remember what that meant. I think that was a conversation we were having off the podcast about Jackson's demeanor this week. But let's talk about Jackson. Yeah. Let's run past it and talk about Jackson.
So I already mentioned it before. So he's not on here for his gameplay necessarily. But I think I put him on the rankings because of his impact on the episode with all the fake idol situation. So like I said before, I'm interested to see what his strategy is. Why is he not getting in? It doesn't seem like he's into the game as much as he was his first time. I don't know if he's playing passively, strategically. People are telling him he needs to talk to people more, whatever. So Maybe he's doing that as a strategy to kind of like step back and be like, hey, I'm not really playing. Like, I'll just vote whatever. But I put him on the list because of just, I felt like a lot of the episode was about his fake idol. So I think even if he gets booted early, he's left in like a huge impression on the season. And with fake idols out there that could get carried very far into the game and be played later on in the season, like, you know, even if he gets sent home early, his impact will still last a long time. So that's why
I totally agree. I think Jackson is having a good season. Narratively, I think he's been here. I think he's been good. I would never count somebody like Jackson out strategically. I think he's really good, and I think he always tends to find a way. And I think with Megan feeding him information, which at this point we're seeing Megan is feeding him basically all the information she has.
Yeah,
that could really pay off for him. So yeah, I totally agree with Jackson being here.
Perfect.
Who else?
So for a similar reason, I put Sam again. And again, I'm taking the power rankings in a little bit of a different direction, but I think it was more just like his impact on the episode. And I think I put him on there because of, like we said before, throwing this grenade and walking away unscathed. I was just like impressed by that whole situation and felt like he should be on the list again, just for that reason alone.
Sam is really good. Like, I think we're just looking at somebody playing who has the ability to play really top level Survivor, who is also choosing to play a very, what's the right word for this? A very TV friendly game of like, just through 2 episodes, he's just been the most interesting person in a cast of extremely interesting people. He has been the most interesting person here so far. And I mean, it in some ways is Sam's world and everybody else is just living in it. You know, right. I don't know the wisdom of playing this kind of game. Like, I don't know that I'm willing to say this is a good move or this worked or whatever, but it worked in the sense of it had an impact, and it worked in the sense of he totally ends up unscathed from this. Like you said, totally just walks away. Does Sam, this is a good question for us to keep our eye on. Does Sam at some point get caught up?
I was literally just
thinking,
can
he keep doing this?
Well, because here's the thing too, is he's supposed to have this like sort of secret alliance with like Paddock and Will. I think the 3 of them had met up a couple times or whatever. So Paddock obviously knows it wasn't her that told Tom that Tom was going, and is going to believe Tom in that it was Sam. So, you know, don't cross Paddock, because you know what happens there. So I think I feel like Sam can maybe throw a couple of these little grenades into the game, and then he has to back off at some point because if this keeps going, I agree. I think it comes back to bite him later in the game. So that's another thing I think we should definitely keep our eye on, is like, at what point does the grenade blow up in his face? Yes,
because he's so good, but you cannot play with fire. It's sort of like the Russell Hansen Samoa thing. If you can do all these things in a group of new players, because nobody knows what's going on, and you can just keep them on their toes, but in a group of returning players, you can't do that all the time, because people are going to catch wise to what you're doing. And I think Sam is right on the precipice of that, of like, okay, you got away with it twice now. Are we going to keep pushing our luck? I don't know. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah.
Who else is here?
I have Megan.
Of course.
It's Megan's season, and we're just watching it play out at this point.
Yes. Now that is the truth.
Once again, I feel like she was a massive part of this episode.
Yes.
We got a lot of Megan confessionals. Again, a lot of it was based on sort of the fake idol situation, the Jackson thing. But again, she was putting in work. She was meeting up with people. We love Megan. I'm so glad she's on this season. We will say that again. We'll say that probably every episode. I just think it's like, I think you had mentioned it before, just like she's definitely somebody that like we have our eye on, and I just like want her to do well, and I want her to like pull off some blind sides, and I want her and Adam alliance to go really far. So I couldn't not put her on the list this week.
I agree. We're having a conversation at the beginning of this episode of who is the Godfather. I'm the Godfather. I'm the Godfather.
Right.
I'm the God. Megan is the Godfather
Yeah.
at this point through episode 2. None of these people have done what she's done. None of these people have the information that she has, because she's the only one that knows all these idols are fake besides Jackson. She and Jackson are the only people that know that.
Mm-hmm.
She's got this in with Adam, that the two of them are together. Megan is at this point so in the driver's seat. I am excited and nervous, because how often does somebody who's in the driver's seat in episode 2 end up being in the driver's seat in episode 12?
Right.
Which is when you want to be in the driver's seat. So I'm super excited for Megan. I think she absolutely belongs at or near the top of this power rankings. But I'm also I'm being conservative because I'm nervous that this is going to explode at some point.
Yes.
So who else is on your list?
I don't know if this has ever happened before, but I have somebody who isn't a player.
Do it.
But I put Sarah's boyfriend, Brian.
Of course. Brian is absolutely making the power rankings this week.
How do you step up like that as a boyfriend, take your shirt off, jump into a fountain, look for, an advantage. So yeah, he was definitely on the list. And I was thinking too, if people don't know, but Paul and I did a podcast with Dale and his wife, Anne. And I think that means if Sarah Gallagher goes on to win,
100%,
we will be having a podcast with both her and Brian.
We're calling it right now
to get Brian's perspective on watching his girlfriend play a 100-day season of Survivor. So I'm manifesting that. I know that we're friends with them. We try to
manifesting good things for Sarah, manifesting good things for the podcast.
Right. We try to stay as neutral as we can, but I thought it would be cool to throw Brian on the power rank.
This is the definition of Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. Like somebody who has their boyfriend jumping into a fountain to try and find them an idol clue. Like, where is mine?
Right.
Where is mine? But this actually leads me into a serious point. Not that wasn't serious, but Sarah is playing a strong game.
Yeah.
And she's playing the kind of game that I like to see somebody in her position play, where she came in not a huge target, and could have easily flown under the radar for a couple rounds or whatever. But instead, she's really saying, like, I'm here to play.
Yeah.
She's in the center of this thing with Cooper and Paddock. She really is the glue of that thing. And it's going to be her responsibility to pull it back together if there still is lingering mistrust with Cooper.
Right.
But I think she can do that. And I really feel like Sarah is playing the one step ahead game here in a lot of ways, that she is, if something manifests with this, Bree and Emily B and Leia and Jesse thing, Sarah fits into that like a glove, like both personality wise and like we talked about with like mutual goals and outcomes. Like she fits into that perfectly. She fits into this bro down thing with Cooper and Crouch. We don't see a lot of this episode, but she's there. Yeah. She has Paddock. She's in such a good spot here that I'm very high on Sarah in a way, indifferently than I am on Megan, in that I like the way I think Megan has done more so far. I think Megan has played a better game so far, but I think Sarah is in a better spot.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of how those two things work out later in the season is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
It's so weird because I love these tribes and these tribe dynamics, and I also want to see a swap. So I literally 100%. Don't even know what I'm rooting for at this point, because we've openly talked about wanting to see two of these tribes go to tribal council in this configuration. Also, I'm dying for a swap. I probably 18, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that too. I was like, we're at 19. I could see them doing it at 18. Because if you don't do it at 18, you have to wait until like 16. And I feel like that's a long
maybe
ways away. But I
unless you
think
do a double boot, I don't know.
right, or like
But
somebody's on exile or something. But I don't know if they would do
we're
that this
just
season.
so antsy because they're so good.
Yeah,
This cast is so good.
yeah,
This season has been so good so far that
yeah.
I can't wait. We're getting set up for storylines, and this is
Hmm.
where. And again, I don't want to overstep boundaries here, but I do sometimes like to point out the difference between College Survivor and CBS Survivor. Of sometimes I feel like CBS Survivor is dumbing down the stories
Mm,
and is especially like we look at the season pass, like was clearly trying to kind of hide their winner or like whatever, or kind of tell a story.
yeah.
Whereas what we're doing here, like we're world building essentially
Hmm.
here with Survivor Michigan All Stars. We're like, we're talking about different roots that connect here, there, other, foreshadowing. Does
Right.
this mean something? Does that mean something? Are we looking forward to this? Are we looking at that? There's so much of that happening here that like every week, and it also goes into the way they're introducing every week is like chapter 1, chapter 2,
I
like
know.
it
I love
feels,
that.
it's so correct though
Yeah.
for with what this season is it's like we're getting a little more information
Hmm.
every week, and it's like this story that we now know is a couple years old
Right.
is unfolding in front of us, and like it's there's an excitement level that that I've associated with this season that it's hard to match.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you make a good point. Just even comparing it to CBS Survivor, it's like we get so much more out of a College Survivor episode than we would ever get
Yeah.
out of a CBS version. And it's exciting. And I think what's cool about the College Survivor situation too is like with all, everybody can talk to anybody. So we get a lot of that. And again, with, I think we've said before, like they're not putting things in the episode that aren't going to matter later on. So we're seeing so much cross tribal, connections. And honestly, like I miss swaps in CBS Survivor. I wish they would bring them back because I think obviously Survivor is a social game. So it's like, I want to see different people interact with other people in the game. And it's cool that you get that in a College Survivor, whether there's a swap going on or not. But the swap just adds to the layer of it because you've made connections with all kinds of people all over the game, but then you are still on a tribe. You do have to vote someone out of the tribe that you're on with the connections that you've made in that tribe. And it just adds more layers to it. So yeah, I agree. I mean, we're 2 episodes in. I mean, I can't imagine this not ending up one of the like best seasons of Survivor across any franchise.
I
like,
agree.
We're only
we don't want to oversell it,
in,
but come on, it's there. We know it's there. We've been primed by everybody who was there to say, no, guys, this is really good. Like that's what everybody has told us. 2 episodes in, over delivered. And so now we just wait, and every week we just say, what's coming next? And and not to belabor the point, but there's also so much joy here that I think that to me is the missing ingredient with CBS Survivor right now that they have started to bring back. They've started to do it with these personal stories and these stuff that happened that I love, that I think has been the post Winners at War Survivor seasons. That's been the absolute best part of them, is getting these personal stories back. I love that. But what these College Survivor season has is these laugh out loud, funny, weird, crazy moments that I feel like we used to get, like, Rupert and the Pelicans or whatever, and like that kind of stuff, and like Butch sharpening the hatchet in the Amazon and Rob being like, what does he need it so sharp for? That kind of stuff is so funny, and so it endears you to these people. And that we're getting so much of that this season, of like, these people are hilarious and funny, and I would die for all of them. Like that is like, that's what the next level is. And so like, yeah, every week these vote are brutal, like, and they do hurt, but I can't say enough good things.
Yeah, no, I agree. A plus so far.
So who is on the top of the power rankings this week?
Oh man. Do we go Megan again?
I don't know how we don't go Megan again. I would have to see something else.
Yeah, right.
You know, I would have to see something that would make me indicate that she's not at the top of the pyramid right now.
Yeah.
And everything I'm seeing puts her at the top of the pyramid right now. So for week 2, not saying what was going to happen going forward or what may happen in the future, for week 2, I think it's got to be Megan 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Stamp it.
Stamp it.
Make it
Here we
official.
go. We need to go back and like chronicle who has the most weeks on top of the power rankings, because there's several people here. Megan is one of them that is going to fight for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like has the most weeks at the top of the power rankings. So maybe we'll get into that in a couple weeks.
We never got that intern.
That's the problem.
We need like a spreadsheet made or something.
This is the problem. No interns. All right. Well, this has been another week of the power rankings, guys. We're so excited. As always, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Let us know what you think. If you have questions, if you have stuff you want us to address, if there's stuff you think we missed, stuff you want us to talk about, we are down. Just hit us up and we will cover it. So I think that's it. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.